that changes on a daily basis. It is rare when you find a little bit of sanity and stability. And if you ever visit the Venetucci farm near Colorado Springs, Colorado, there's something about this humble spot that is so secure and comfortable that makes you want to stay forever. And if you visit the Venetucci farm during the month of October, during the pumpkin harvest, you will see the pumpkin patch when it is filled with dreams. The dreams that are made from hard work and sacrifice, the dreams that are made from love. For the past 40 years, the Venetucci family has opened their pumpkin patch to the school children of the Colorado Springs area. Over 35,000 children visit the Venetucci farm each year. For most of these school children, it is a chance to see a farm for the first time and a chance to bring home a free pumpkin. For the Venetucci family, it is a chance to harvest a field full of children and a way of saying thank you to the community they love. Just south of Colorado Springs on Highway 8587, the Venetucci family has lived and worked on their farm since 1936. This immigrant family from Italy has made their home from a harvest of love. The history of the Venetucci farm is a story of sacrifice, starting with Antonio Venetucci. Born in Italy in 1901, Antonio Venetucci came to the United States at the age of 33 with his wife and 6-year-old son Nicholas Venetucci. Antonio Venetucci worked hard side by side with other Italian immigrants in the hazardous coal mines in Lafayette, Erie, Louisville, and Broomfield, Colorado. At the age of 13, his son Nicholas continued the family tradition of hard work and was employed as a water boy during the construction of the state capitol from 1891 to 1893. After the capitol was built, like his father, Nicholas began working in coal mines throughout Colorado. In the year 1900, Nicholas went back to Italy to find a bride and married Marguerite Corella. He returned to the United States with his bride and moved to the Colorado Springs area to work in the Curtis coal mines with his father. Curtis, Colorado has since been incorporated into the city of Colorado Springs and today is known as the Cragmore area. Nicholas and Marguerite had 7 children: Tony, Nina, Mike, Joe, Nick, Rocco, and Mary. Nicholas's father, Antonio, lived with Nicholas and his family until his death in 1935. Shortly after Antonio's death, the Venetucci family used all their family savings to purchase the current Venetucci farm south of Colorado Springs. It was the middle of the Depression and the entire family had to focus all their energy and work to keep the farm running. Despite the hard work, it was a dream come true for the 57-year-old Nicholas, a man who had spent his youth risking his life in dangerous coal mines. It was a chance for him to work outside in fresh air and a chance for him to work for himself. 54 years after the Venetucci family bought their farm, only Dominic, also known as Nick, remains to work the farm with his wife Bambi. The eldest son, Tony, the family historian and a noted local water rights expert, is now 88 years old. Tony retired in 1967 and lives quietly with his wife Florence on Bonvoy Street in Colorado Springs. Nina, Mike, Rocco, and Joe have all passed away. The youngest girl, Mary, now lives in California. Together, Nic and Bambi do the best they can to keep the farm going. In this documentary, we tell the story of the Venetucci family through the memories of Nic Venetucci, the 79-year-old farmer who was the only one left on the farm, keeping alive the legacy of this proud immigrant family. What was your father like? Can you tell us a little bit about your father?
None of us boys can compare with my dad. My dad was a real man. There couldn't be a better dad. He's tall, he's about 6 foot tall. He was all man, he was a real worker. Had a runaway team of horses one day, and my dad tried to stop him right in front of him. The whole wagon load and all run over his legs. It busted the big bone in his leg and laid him up for about 6 months.
Why did he leave? Why did he want to become an American?
My dad, he was glad to come to the United States, where he had an opportunity. You're born poor in those foreign countries, you stay poor. There's no opportunity. But they come to this country and they seen the opportunities and they took advantage of it.
He must have been a courageous man to come out here and, you know, not knowing the language.
I often think about that. You know, they come here with nothing but the shirt on their back. And my dad worked 16 hours a day to raise our family. I'll never forget. He was working on a fence. He had a hammer in his hand, and he had a stroke. So I put him on my shoulder and brought him in here and put him on the bed. And I called Dr. Haney, our old family doctor, and Dr. Haney had his office full of people that day. But soon he loved my dad too. And as soon as he heard about it, he was down there in 15 minutes from town. And he says, your dad's had a stroke. He says, you better get him to the hospital right away. And so we did, and he lasted about 4 or 5 hours, and that was it.
So he was working up until the time he died then?
He had a hammer in his hand. He was 83 years old.
Like many first-generation Americans of his era, Nic Venetucci fell in love with the American sport of baseball. He was an outstanding catcher, and it was his dream to become a Major League Baseball player. So you wanted to be a baseball player initially?
That was my first choice. Went to a baseball school in California, National Baseball School, and I was down there for three months, and there was kids from all over the United States at that school, and I made the first team. And we used to play against all those big colleges down there, UCLA, USC, Loyola University. We used to play against all of them. And of all the kids was there's only 5 of us got a contract to go to some major league chain team. And I was with the New York Yankees at that time, with their chain team. I had big ideas. That's what I was going to be, a professional baseball player. And I played 1 year in Class D League, jumped from D to A in 1 year. And I was on my way up. I don't know how far I would have got, but I was forced to come home to help run the farm.
What did you like about baseball? What did you really...
It's a clean sport. I think baseball, smaller guys can make a go, but you take basketball and football, unless you're big bruisers or 7 foot tall, well, you haven't got a chance. But in baseball, an average man, he's just got as much chance or even better than the bigger ones. It all depends on your ability.
As much as Nic loved baseball, he loved his family more. He was willing to sacrifice a promising baseball career in order to keep his family and farm together. It was the first of many major sacrifices he would make in his life for the sake of his family.
Them were Depression days. If our family hadn't stuck together right off the bat, well, we wouldn't be here today. The neighbors around here said, oh, you boys will be here a year and you'll be gone. They're gone, I'm still here.
As time went on, Nic began to love farming as much as he loved baseball. Working closely with the family he loved, he sacrificed his youth and his athletic gifts to create one of the finest farms in the region.
A lot of my days, I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Usually it's in the summertime, it's dark before I get in. So my days are around 12, 14 hours a day during the summer months.
I mean, that's the way it's been all your life then, huh?
Yeah.
Don't you start to feel it after a while, or?
I love to work. I am not afraid of work. I love to work. Farming is a challenge. It's a big gamble too, but it's a big challenge. And unless you love what you're doing, you'll never make it go out of farming, I'll guarantee you. You got to love your work.
When were the toughest years?
Toughest years? Well, the Depression was, especially the first 3 years. This place was so run down. Land and buildings and all, we just, instead of making money, we just spent what little money was left. You know, in those days, why, $1,000 was a lot of money. But the thing that really made this farm was when We put down wells here in early 1940. Nobody knew what was under this ground, and that's how security in Whitefield is built, by the water that we first discovered here that nobody really knew much about at all, neighbors or nobody else. And we sold water to the city for 15 years or so, I'd say. And but without the water, the wells is what really made the farm. Without that, we couldn't grow things like we are now.
Water was like gold in Colorado Springs in the early 1950s. The city was experiencing a severe drought, and the Venetuccis did their part to help by selling water to the city at a bargain price. The Broadmoor Hotel suffered, as did the rest of the city, from this water shortage. Its great golf courses were turning brown, and the hotel almost had to close its doors. It was ironic that this humble immigrant family was the key to keeping the doors open at this magnificent luxury hotel.
But Broadmoor, one time, they were about to close their doors. They didn't have any water in the hotel. And Mr. Tutt himself, Thayer's dad, that's when we had our wells here. And they seen our wells, and they wanted to know, if we'd sell them some water. So we did. Interstate Gas come in here, and they put a pipeline from here to Cheyenne Mountain, where the zoo's at up there. And it took about 2 months or so before they got that line in. But that was in early 1950s when there was a shortage of water in this town. And about the time the Air Academy moved in here, and the Air Academy, found out Broadmoor didn't have water to close they had to close their hotel because they didn't have the water. Well, they might have changed their mind about moving into Colorado Springs. Well, they don't have no water there. So they didn't get out, but we did save them. We did the Broadmoor a lot of good.
Nic Venetucci never had any children of his own. Over the years, he and his family would hire young men to help run the farm. It was a chance for Nic to become a teacher and share his farm knowledge as well as his philosophy of life.
Yeah, tell me about some of the kids that have worked on the farm. So I guess you've had a lot of young men that have come here, and you've taken them under your wing like a father and taught them how to farm.
Since I've been on this farm, I think I've probably worked 3,000 different kids. And over the years, and I worked with these boys. That's when I was younger too, and I loved to work with these young boys, anywhere from 12 to 14, 15 years old. And I could get a lot of work out of these kids. I taught them how to drive the tractor and how to work. They learned things here that they never forgot. And later in life, they learned how to work.
Nic and his wife Bambi are the last of the Venetuccis left on the farm. At 79 years old, he still works as hard as he ever did.
How do you run a farm just on your own now? How do you do it with your...
Well, it isn't like when the whole family was here, that's for sure. When my brothers and my dad and mother was here, it was a lot different. But I've got things down to where I know all the shortcuts, and so I try to operate the best I know how. We still raise lots of stuff.
Nic Venetucci didn't get married until he was 74 years old. His eldest brother Tony also waited to get married when he retired at the age of 65. Their brother Joe remained a bachelor until his death. The Venetucci boys' obligation to their family and the family farm prevented them from starting families of their own. Even after things became better financially, Nic had to focus his time on taking care of his invalid mother. Nic Venetucci not only sacrificed a baseball career, but he sacrificed a personal life to keep the family farm going.
Let's talk about the sacrifices you've made. The sacrifices you've made. You know, you sacrificed a career in baseball. You sacrificed a personal life. Really, you didn't get married till 5 years ago, till you're in your 70s. Right. What motivated you to make all these sacrifices?
Well, seemed like that to be a strong one in a family, whether it's my family, that you have to make sacrifices if you're going to get anywhere in this world. I mean, if you want to keep a family together, you're going to have to make sacrifices. And I love my parents. There's nothing that I wouldn't have done for them. I would have never thought of putting my mother in a nursing home, than nothing. I wouldn't have thought of such a thing. But today, a lot of these mothers and fathers, I don't know, the old saying, a mother can raise 12 kids and 12 kids can't take care of one mother. Now that doesn't make sense to me. Seems like there should be one in a family that can at least take care of their mother. Mother and dad practically both died in my arms. Uh-huh. Especially my mother.
But your mother was an invalid for 4 years.
About 4 years. She had a stroke and lost all control. And it took a lot of, my days were, I'd be washing clothes out of here sometime at midnight with a wringer type machine, washing machine. But them days, my days were, 16, 18 hours long. Uh-huh. Besides doing all this hard work on the farm. You've
kind of had the burden of responsibility for your entire family. You've taken care of your mother for 4 years when she was an invalid. You've taken care of your brother. You've ran the farm. You know, it takes a special type of courage to do that. What inside of you? Why were you able to make those sacrifices without being a bitter person?
Well, I've always had a lot of faith in my life, and I think has helped me see through a lot of things, see me through a lot of things. Without faith, I don't think I'd ever made it. And I'm a religious person, and I've been going to St. Mary's for this will be 54 years now. And at Midnight Mass, I think I hold the record at St. Mary's. I haven't missed a Midnight Mass in 53 years. So I do have a lot of faith, and without faith, why, I don't think I could have made it.
There are no Venetucci children to take over the family farm. After a lifetime of sacrifices, Nic has only one regret.
I've had to make sacrifices, but I don't regret it. My only regret is to say I wish I'd have married when I was younger, especially when we were younger, and I could raise the family, but that was it. But I couldn't, if I did that, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be giving away pumpkins to the kids and all this sort of thing. So maybe I think the Lord has a plan in your life from the day you're born, I think.
Nic was finally rewarded for his sacrifices when he married Bambi Antonio. Bambi and Nic waited 27 years before they could get married. Bambi, a remarkable woman and an outstanding teacher, complements Nic's strengths and weaknesses and knows how to work as hard as her husband. Bambi married Nic after she retired from teaching. Her retirement on the farm became more work than she ever had to do as a teacher.
Let's talk a little bit about your marriage. You mentioned Bambi, and I guess you've known Bambi for a long time, right?
Yeah, before we were married. Bambi, she was Colorado's Teacher of the Year in 1983. She taught school at the Deaf and Blind School for 30 years. And I've known her, I'd say for 27 years before that. It took me 27 years to find it, but at the time, there's no way I could have married her because our brothers were all here, and I couldn't bring her to the farm, and living this way, So we had to, And my mother, I take care of my mother for 4 years too, like a little baby too. But so we had to wait before we could finally get married.
It was the first marriage for both of you, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
She didn't care for anybody else in all those years, and I didn't care for anybody else either, but we had to wait all these years before we could finally get married. We just love each other, that's all there's to it.
It was worth all that wait then, huh?
Yeah. And I don't know what I'd do without her. I tell you, she's something special.
That's nice.
And when my brother was sick, Joe, she took care of him just like a nurse. We put not hundreds of hours around him, thousands of hours. We both loved Joe too. He was a saint, my brother Joe. And but without her, why, he would have never lived as long as he did, that's for sure. She's been a godsend.
If Nic's only regret is not having children, he has made up for it by adopting the children of an entire community. Every October, his 35,000 kids come home to visit.
Let's talk about that. When did you start that tradition of giving away free pumpkins to the local school kids?
40 years now when I first started this thing, but not on. I used to take pumpkins to market. One day I was going up to Home Street, and there was a bunch of little kids walking up the street, and I noticed their eyes would bulge out, and so I decided just to park my darn truck on the street and give every little kid a pumpkin to come along. I would give them a whole truckload that day, and that's how it first started. And then one of the day school teachers wanted to know if she could bring her children down to see how the pumpkins grew. I said, that's fine. While they're here, just let them pick one. And from there on, why, one school told another, and pretty soon there was 3,000-4,000 little kids. Now it's just grown up to, at least 35,000-40,000.
Why did you think you did that the first time, gave away those pumpkins? You just...
I don't know. I just love kids. I still love kids. I wish you could come down there when a lot of these kids are around there. You'd see some of the happiest little kiddies you ever saw in your life. They go wild out there. They just love to be out in the fields and find a pumpkin they want, and they go from one end of the field to the other to find the special one they want. I remember one little fella, he was looking for the biggest pumpkin he could find. He walked down, I'd say, a good quarter of a mile at least, and he finally found one. The poor little fellow, he couldn't carry it, so he rolled it all that distance, and it was hot that day, and he was just sweating away when he got up here with that pumpkin. Boy, when he got up here, he sat on that pumpkin. He homesteaded that pumpkin. Nobody got his pumpkin.
What kind of planning does it take? You say there's like 40,000 kids that come through here. Do the schools contact you, and then Bambi schedules all the scheduling?
Yeah, they call here, and Bambi she's a big help. I don't know what I'd do without her. She schedules all the buses at a certain time. You can't have, maybe 3,000 or 4,000 at a time. You can't have 10 or 15,000 in one day. Of course, I never know till fall whether raise more kids than I am pumpkins, but I've been staying ahead of them.
Recently, the Venetucci family has been honored for their generosity to the community. In October 1990, Nic received a statewide award from the governor for volunteering his time and farm for education. In 1986, an elementary school was named after the Venetucci family.
Tell me a little bit about the Venetucci school that was named after your family. How did that happen?
One day, 3 or 4 of them come up here. One of the principals of the school and the superintendent and 2 or 3 more, and they said, we want to name a school after you. I said, well, I don't know about that. I'll have to think about it a couple of days. And I guess it's because on account of what I did for the kids over the years, I think that probably was the big reason for it. And so I decided, well, I don't see nothing wrong with it. And at least the name will be left after I'm dead and gone. The Venetucci name will carry on that way anyway. So I went ahead and said, yeah, it'll be okay. They wanted to name it the Nic Venetucci School. I said, no. I said, you name it the Venetucci Elementary School because Bambi's a Venetucci and our whole family's Venetucci. I didn't want the credit just for myself.
In 1942, the United States government acquired 815 acres at the original 1,020-acre Venetucci farm for part of Camp Carson. It left the Venetucci family with only 205 acres of farmland. They were forced to sell to the government at only $10 an acre. The Venetuccis loved the United States and never complained about having to sell 3/4 of their farm to the Army.
What is it that you love about this country?
Well, you've got a lot more freedom, that's for sure. You've got, you can do most anything you want. It's up to you. You know, you can get in trouble or you can be good, or you got lots of freedom here, and you got lots of opportunities. There's no end to opportunity. Everybody wants to work today. I think there's plenty of opportunities if you want to go after it.
Do you think there's more opportunities now than when you were first here?
Yes, I'm quite sure there is. There's more competition, but I think there's no reason why young people today can't get out in the world and make a good living.
When Nic Venetucci traded in his baseball bat for a shovel, he never looked back. In the last 54 years, he has never left the farm for more than a total of 4 weeks.
What do you love about Colorado Springs? What do you love about this community?
Well, I think it's a hard place to beat myself. I was born and raised here, of course, but we have a really nice climate here. We have mild winters, and the summers are not too hot. I don't care to go to Florida, nowhere else, California. So I'm staying right here.
We will never know if Nic Venetucci would have become a famous Major League Baseball player had he not returned home to help on the farm. What we do know is that Nic Venetucci chose to be a farmer, and his family and his community are better off because of it.
When you're young, you know, you got big ideas, and I love baseball too. That's what, as I say, that's what I was going to be. But I think I'd have went quite a way because I played against big league ball players. And I thought I was pretty good. I don't know, yeah. But as I say, sports is fine. But when you get around 35. So, you know, 35 or 40 at the most, why you're through. But us farmers, why we just sort of fade away. We live forever, I guess. I don't know.